There we are. Hey, everybody. Welcome to On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. I'm Chris Miller. That, of course, is Jim Powers. Jim, how are we doing today?
Good, good. It's been a nice week so far. Mother Nature is letting everybody play nice in the sandbox, so to say, and the weekend's going to be terrific. So it'll be a lot of fun and a lot of big games coming up this week. Especially after last week with some of the monster games that we saw all around the area. Really, when you talk about it, this past Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be enjoying the weather as much because it's going to be probably some more of that farming stuff for me, but that's okay. Let the kids play, let everybody else have a good time. And you're right. We had some really good games. I will say this: a couple of games I was really surprised about. What they went one way or the other, but at the same time, I think we got some interesting matchups that we covered last week. We'll go ahead and just kind of talk about those. So last week, Bishop DeBerg lost to St. Pius. That was the game that Off the Rails Media that we did and broadcasted. They lost 74-14. It was a great game by St. Pius. I'm not being a homer either when I say that. Lindbergh fell to Ladue 7-17. Hillsboro came out on top of Cape Central in a very close game that went back and forth, 35-28. Francis Howell took a kind of a surprising loss. We said it was a tough place to play, but they lost to Jackson 42-35. Another one of those games that we thought was going to be a really good one turned out to be a good one, with Rockwood Summit coming out on top against Marquette 27-21, and then Valley Catholic just deciding that, hey, we are still Valley Catholic, taking a good home win to Festus 20-6. Jim, what's some of the recap that you have on some of these games that we previewed last week?
Well, Pius, they're a sneaky good team, and you know this as well as I do. They're a team that, new coach that has been around the block, and Coach Ray, and you would expect that type of a win. DeBerg, they're going to get some wins. This is a really, a much improved team that Chad Masters has. They're gonna get some victories this year without a doubt. But Pius just doing what Pius does. They just beat you up front, take control, grind some clock. They got some early scores, took care of the ball, and that's what you expect out of Pius. And then you look at that Howell Jackson game. That game went back and forth, but I think where that thing flipped was Howell had a 14-7 lead with about a minute left in the first half, and Jackson was able to score. And that's where it goes 14-14 at the half, and then nobody could stop anybody in the second half down there at the pit. And Jackson was able to hold on. Howell had a chance. They had the ball at the 50-yard line with about 40 seconds left and just couldn't convert. So, Jackson showed that they're for real this year. A lot of doubters, and with them moving up to Class 6, they slid into the state media poll. And then when you look at that Summit Marquette game, hey, Summit ran away with this thing. The score is a lot closer than what really happened. And Stewart, Stu, he does it the way he does it. That's their defense is really solid. They got a great quarterback, and he made some really nice throws, in that ball game as well. So, you got that. And then, yeah, you mentioned it. Valley doing what Valley does. They kind of got embarrassed last week against Seckman. So guess what? Somebody's going to pay for it. Unfortunately, it was Festus that had to pay for it. I still think Festus is a really good team, but I think Valley showed that they are going to be the team to beat on this side of the state in Class 2. Obviously, you're going to run into that Lamar team, from down southwest corner at some point. But, the big thing is Valley is as good as advertised.
Yes, they are. And I do say this, and going back to the Pius DeBerg game, I saw a lot of really good things from DeBerg. I think they're about to turn the corner to knock off that losing streak that they have, and I think they're gonna turn some things around. I did like that. Did like what they did. Did like what they did in that game. Excuse me.
Sure.
But for me personally, I was kind of surprised a little bit. I know that Howell was kind of shaky in their first game in week 1 against Zumwalt North, but it just kind of shows you that Jackson's for real. I know that we're going to talk about them here in a second, but at the same time, I still think they're a good team, and I think they're there's still a lot there for them to prove to get back to that point where they were the top dog, albeit now they're in Class 6. And speaking of Class 6, we'll go ahead and get right into that part of our show with our Week 2 state rankings in Class 6. Jim, why don't you talk a little bit about this one?
Not a lot of movement, so to say. Howell slips down a couple spots. Rockhurst and Nixon move up a little bit. CBC stays in the 2 spot. Once again, they got beat up by the powerhouse down in Arkansas. I mean, a team that's won 5 straight state championships in Bryant. And the Hornets took it to them early. CBC made a run to make it a little bit closer. But, the CBC is still really good. Now, a lot of eyes, we're going to talk about this matchup. A lot of eyes go to South City and Oakland Avenue on Friday night as the Junior Bills and the Cadets will match up. Be really interested to see that. Then you look down towards the bottom. You got Howell that slips a couple spots. The Smet stays put after a really nice victory against a solid Glenbard West team over at East St. Louis on Saturday afternoon, 10-0. And then Jackson sliding in. Where and you beat one of the top dogs, you deserve to be ranked. And Jackson sliding in at number 10. So, not a whole lot of surprises and very little movement in the poll this week.
Right, and as we said, I mean, it just shows Jackson is for real, and they're back, they're ready to play. And I tell you, you had said it earlier in our first broadcast episode, the first episode of this season, that Class 6 is going to be tough, and that is exactly what's shaping out to be right now. And Class 5, we'll go ahead and jump over there and take a look at them. Jim, what can you tell us about Class 5?
Well, Ritter stays number 1. You can't penalize them for not being able to play a game against Vashon this past Friday night. I guess a lot of issues at Vashon led to some threats, and both administrations just saying, listen, we're just not going to pull this off. So, Ritter, they'll stand pat at 1. Grain Valley, another nice win. EUREKA, once again, just pounding the ball all over the place. Webb City with a nice bounce back win. Then you look down at the bottom. You've got MICDS, a couple solid victories, and then Rockwood Summit. You had to put them in because of that victory over Marquette. And that's exactly what you would expect. And I'm telling you, Summit's schedule is setting up really, really nicely for them right now. And they can reel off and stack up some more victories. You're going to see them slowly climb. I'm telling you, they're going to be a team that you're absolutely going to need to watch later on this season.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, we talked about them last year and how they were starting to build something special, and then now all of a sudden they're 2-0, and I just see them reeling off, a really good season moving forward with their schedule. And EUREKA, and we'll be talking a little bit about them. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Foreshadow here. EUREKA just doing some really great things. Especially on the defensive side. The offense is, everybody's going to talk about that, but the defense that's a dominating defense right now, playing very, very well. And of course, Ritter's Ritter. And you're right. You want to make sure that all the athletes, all the fans, all the kids, everybody's safe. So unfortunately, there was no game that got to be played. And but they did pick up a win on a forfeit, and of course nobody penalized them, and they do stay at number 1. And I think that would be a travesty if they dropped. No disrespect to Grain Valley or EUREKA as well. And then let's talk about Class 4. Wait for it. There we go, Jim. Class 4 is pretty tough, man. So give us your take here.
Yeah, Lutheran North goes to Central Mo and does something that not a lot of teams are able to do, and that's beat Blair Oaks at Blair Oaks, and they did it convincingly. They raced out to an early lead, was able to hold on. Blair Oaks made a run towards the end, but this Lutheran North team is really, really good, and we're going to talk about them here. And there's another deep tease for you. They got a big one coming up on Friday, and this one is going to be a fun one with them and Howell. Smithville. They lost to the Platte County. Platte County is really solid, so didn't penalize Smithville a whole heck of a lot. HILLSBORO, definitely the number 3 team. They go down to Cape Central, another tough place to play, able to eke out a victory against a really, really good Cape Central team. And then you look down towards the bottom. Festus did, they tumbled a little bit out of the 6th spot last week down to the 9th spot. Now we'll see how, Coach Afadale has those kids bounce back. How are they going to attack this week and come after things and try and get back on the winning trail? But once again, Festus is really good. I know a lot of people are looking towards a couple big games for them, towards the back end of the season. And that's where we'll see exactly what Festus is all about. But I really like what they do. Then once again, they ran into a Valley Catholic team that was a little embarrassed, a little upset, and a little salty after the second game last week. And you had in the back of your mind thinking that they weren't going to drop back-to-backs. And they took care of their business, and they did what they need to do. But Festus is going to be a pretty good team.
Yeah, and it's not like Festus was playing, some pushover team that just walloped them. I mean, the Valley Catholic, for many years now since they started the championship factor, have played up. They play big schools. They have to because they're obviously in those classes, and they've shown that they can do that. So it's not like they got, the Festus lost to a team that was smaller, and wasn't able to play with them. They are a good team. I still think that they've got a lot of weapons, and Coach O is probably going to have those guys primed and ready to go. And you hint towards it. And we did talk about it a little bit last week in the event that both teams were undefeated, but the Hillsboro Festus game is one that I think a lot of people in Jefferson County have already circled, and they are ready to go for that game. I think that's going to be a really good one.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they've got a couple big ones. Hillsboro's got a couple big ones because you remember they get Festus, and you've also got the matchup against that team down in Bonne Terre that is really good once again in North County. So yeah, I mean, there's not a cupcake on anybody's schedule right now, and conference play is going to get started, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go ahead and start our matchup previews. And you're watching On the Move at the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. We'll be right back.
I'm the captain of the Pee Wee football team. We may be small, but we are
mighty,
annoying. And you are so tired from playing defense against us that your focus is about to ride the bench. Go, go, go. Thanks, Mom.
Bye.
Come on. And if you have cut rate car insurance, then not even a Hail Mary will save you from paying for this. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Mayhem is everywhere. Are you in good hands?
Are you tired of boring sports talk shows? Then tune in to the Coach's Box. These guys don't just talk sports. They talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. Watch new episodes of the Coach's Box each week for free on Facebook, YouTube, or the Streamline Sports app.
Hey everybody, welcome back to On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. I'm Chris Miller again. That's Jim Powers. And Jim, you got 6 games all lined up. I got to say, from the guy being at the small schools, I do like seeing the small schools getting represented on this show a little bit. So that's always nice. I do know we have, like you said, we have some really good football matchups this week. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting play on Friday nights for people to go get out and watch. The weather, I believe, is supposed to be good. So why not? I mean, get out there and watch these kids play.
Yeah, it's going to be a great night. Friday night, they're talking maybe the high at kickoff on Friday evening around 79 degrees. Yeah, it's going to be just an unreal night. And real quick before we move on, we want to thank Sean Wiley from Wiley Agencies, and without his sponsorship and helping us out with this, we wouldn't be able to do this every week. So if you need any insurance needs or anything like that, make sure you reach out to Sean, and he'll get you hooked up, and does a terrific job. And he's a big supporter of high school sports, which is absolutely huge. And that's so. But yeah, let's get into the games because we got 6 good ones. And once again, we try and get 3 big matchups up here in the St. Louis area, and then 3 with what's going on down in Jeffco, because once again, there's a lot of great football down in Jefferson County, and we need to spotlight that because they're not getting it up here and in the metro area. And that's why we do what we do. And that's how I kind of break the games down. And we get the bigger schools up in the metro area here. And then, when we get down to Jeffco, we talk a lot about the smaller schools. And once again, some really, really fun matchups coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of which, we'll go ahead and jump in our first matchups. They're going to be in Jefferson County-ish because we have our first game features the 1-1 Crystal City Hornets in Jefferson County taking on the 0-1 Bayless Broncos. Crystal City was hoping to get revenge on their Week 2 opponent, Louisiana, who bounced the Hornets in last year's district tournament. Despite rushing for 270 yards as a team, Crystal City was unable to get into the end zone more than once, losing 12-8 in a defensive showcase. Bayless opened up their season last week, losing to conference opponent Grandview 45-8. Last year, Crystal City won this matchup 32-14. Jim, will the Broncos get some revenge, or will the Hornets get back on track?
The Hornets are, we talked about Valley Catholic being a little salty after losing to Seckman and then taking it out on Festus. Well, guess what? I think Crystal City is going to be a little salty after losing to Louisiana, and I feel bad for Bayless. Bayless, once again, really building their program. They got a terrific facility over in South County, and, they're going to get things going. But this Crystal City team is a really, really solid team. They're going to make a deep run in Class 1 this year. And they're going to have to play Louisiana probably once again later on down the line. But the bottom line is this Crystal City team is going to bounce back. They're going to get a nice road victory this week and be able to do what they do, and that's get back on the winning track.
Yeah, and I mean, that Louisiana, they played tough. They played them tough last year, obviously in the district. And there was a lot of kids that graduated from last year's Crystal City team that aren't a part of this year's team. But I think by the end of the year, what they do and how they run the football and possess the ball like they do, the defense is still playing really well. The offense has just got to get going a little bit more. I think they're going to come around and they're going to have a good, solid year by the end of the season. I do agree with you. I think that they're going to pick up the win. I don't think Bayless has enough weapons. I don't think they're at the level that Crystal City is at the moment. But as you said, they are building something there. They haven't had a program for very long. So it's just a matter of time. And when everything starts coming together, you're going to see some good football being played there.
Without a doubt. And once again, you can't build a program in 3-4 years. It takes time to get things going. And Bayless is going to do that because they've got committed administration. You look at the facility that they built right behind the high school. It's a terrific facility that a lot of schools would love to have. So they're going to be fine. But Crystal, I really think this team's going to make a pretty deep run, and this will help them get back into going.
I agree. And then our next matchup, it's going to feature a couple of I-55 conference rivals as Herculaneum and Jefferson square off. The Black Cats got into the win column last week against Fredericktown 14-0 behind a stingy defense that forced 3 takeaways and a team rushing attack that gained 246 yards last week, 136 of those by junior running back Braden Mattingly. Their opponent also pitched a shutout last week as Jefferson walloped Cuba 42-0 in week 2. The Blue Jays got a big boost from senior wide receiver Nate Breeze, who had 119 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns against the Wildcats. Despite Herky winning last year's matchup 16-8, Jefferson has won 8 of the last 10 matchups dating back to 2013. Jim, this is going to be one of those knockdown, drag-out games, I-55 style, baby.
Well, you know what? You got a Herky defense that is really, really good, and you've got a Jefferson offense that can move the ball. And you're kind of seeing, R7 getting back to where they were a few years ago. They were a team that made a lot of noise and was able to take care of some business. But I really like the defense that Herky's got. Herky is really, really good. They do things the right way. This is just going to be that typical backyard brawl between these two teams. And it's a coin flip in my mind. And if you got to push me to it, the only way I say to give Jefferson the nod is because they're playing at home in front of just a terrific crowd that they get game in and game out.
Yeah, they do have some really good fans. I would know, considering they are in our backyard, and it's always a good rivalry. I think something that people just don't know when you're not from this area is just how good the rivalries and the matchup are between HERCULANEUM, Jefferson, St. Pius, Crystal City, Grandview, and even going down into St. Vincent and playing down there. I mean, the I-55, it always feels like a bloodbath, and everybody's always ready to play each other. These rivalries have went on for so long, and Herky and Jefferson, while Jefferson hasn't had a high school as long, obviously, as HERCULANEUM has, this is one of those kind of like bad blood rivalries where, I mean, you're taking the gloves off and you're fighting, and that's what I see. And the edge would like you said, it was going to probably go to Jefferson. They're playing at home, but you can't count out either team at this point because they both play extremely hard and are very well coached.
The I-55 is just going to be a meat grinder for anybody this year. Let's just put it out there right now. You can get through if you can get through the I-55. You are going to be in really, really solid shape to make a pretty deep run in the state playoffs and win districts. And I think, when you look at districts, I think there's 4 or 5 teams out of the I-55 that can compete for district championships. And that's going to be a lot of fun to see. But you're exactly right. You start hooking those teams up. And then, like you said, you go down a little bit farther south, to St. Vincent, and those types of schools. Yeah, it's just a meat grinder week in and week out. And you got to strap it up. You got to bring the lunch pail every week because there's no easy games in the I-55 moving forward.
Right, I agree. And speaking of our next matchup, it is another I-55 matchup, and it is actually the matchup of the now defunct Black and Blue Bash Trophy as the 2-0 St. Pius Lancers travel to Ware, Missouri. It is a place, believe it or not, to take on the 2-0 Grandview Eagles. St. Pius comes into the game 2-0 after a rather lopsided win, as we discussed earlier and was previewed, against Bishop DeBerg last week, 74-14. The Lancers' ground game wore down the Cavaliers as they racked up 463 yards as a team. Junior running back Justin Lane had another big day with 149 yards on the ground and 5 total touchdowns. Grandview also had their own big game, as mentioned before, by beating conference opponent Bayless 45-8. Senior running back Nash Moore had a big game as well for the Eagles as he notched 3 touchdowns on the ground. Last year, the Lancers took this matchup 35-6. Jim, this isn't the same Grandview teams as old. This is a very well coached, and they play very well Eagle team. So what do you see in this one?
I see a knockdown drag-out, and somebody's defense better step up because you got 2 teams that just love to run the ball. This is one of those games, Chris, that could end in 2 hours. Because they're not going to throw the ball very much. They are just going to beat you up front, try and get to the next level, and move the football on the ground. And these 2 teams have been really, really successful here in the early season. What Pius did against the Berg, 400 plus, was terrific. You got Grandview that's coming off of a nice victory. I think the winner of this game is really going to put themselves into a really, really good situation. The loser will have a little bit of work to do, but yeah, this is not your typical Grandview team of old. This is a much improved team. The program has grown over the last couple years. I'm really, really excited to see that because, they are a team that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle because of where they're at location-wise. But I'm telling you, this is a team that I think can make some noise, especially if they can get the victory on Friday night. Edge the Pius. I think they're a little bit bigger up front. I think depth-wise, too. I think Pius is a little bit deeper numbers-wise than Grandview. But this could be an upset alert as well because I think the way Grandview's playing, they can come in, especially at home, take care of business.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about a good crowd. I know that I worked at Grandview for 6 years, maybe 7. I don't know. I lost count because I've been doing this for a while. But the fans out there were great. The kids out there were great. And those kids that are actually seniors and juniors right now were a part of their junior Eagles teams back then. And when Grandview's high school teams weren't as good, I know that they had all kinds of participation. The parents put in a lot of time because they wanted to build the program and have those kids to where they were ready to play, and they knew football and they knew the game. And there were so many kids that had played in that Junior Eagles program that are currently on, that came through there and now playing for Grandview. And you'd come out there on a Saturday morning, and the place is packed with parents and kids, and they're all out there playing, and you just love seeing it. Obviously, being someone who's worked there, know a lot of people there still, and the great people I worked with. I'm obviously going to root for the Lancers. Might even make the trip out to Ware, Missouri. Best concession stand food.
Without a doubt.
So,
doubt. I'll say that without a doubt.
But it should be a really good game. And you're right, it does. The winner is in the driver's seat for the conference. It doesn't get any easier, as we say, because the I-55 is just a meat grinder. So, best of luck to both teams, obviously. And this should be a lot of fun to watch moving forward here. We'll go ahead and jump into our next game. Our next matchup moves up in class size just a little bit, as we showcase Class 5 third-ranked EUREKA traveling to take on host Kirkwood. Last week, EUREKA defeated Hazelwood West 63-0 as junior Casey Hobbleman tossed 4 touchdowns, and the defense kept their opponents out of the end zone for the second straight week. Kirkwood picked up their first win of the season last week, defeating Pattonville 10-7 in a barn burner. The Pioneers scored their only touchdown of the game on a 1-yard dive into the end zone by junior running back Tyson Sanders in the fourth quarter to secure the win. Jeremy Macklin will need to have both sides of the ball step up for the Pioneers in this Suburban Conference Yellow Pool matchup. So, Jim, what is your take on this one?
Boy, EUREKA is EUREKA, but here's the thing. Defensively, they're always going to be good. And they haven't given up a touchdown yet this year, I don't believe. Their offense has evolved. Because remember, a couple years ago, this is a EUREKA program. They would smash mouth football. That when you had Kevin Emanuel and some of those kids and some of the big boys up front, they didn't need to throw the ball around. Well, guess what? Now they got a kid that can chuck it all over the place. He had 3 touchdown passes last week, 4 this week. He is as good as it's going to get quarterback-wise here in the metro area. Kirkwood's got to figure some stuff out, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I know that, Sanders is good, that they're, got the 2 quarterbacks. I'm not sure if Jeremy has settled in on one just yet, but defensively, you can't prepare for a EUREKA team that's going to run the ball. The back end of your defense has to be solid if Kirkwood wants to come out of this with a victory. Now, obviously, you're going to Kirkwood, hostile environment, terrific crowd, but the way EUREKA is playing right now, you've got to give them the edge, and especially if they can get going offensively and keep that defense keeping what they do, and that's shutting out people and limiting possessions. I think EUREKA gets a nice road victory in the Suburban, and once again, this is a win that will give them, I think, a real big upper leg in the Suburban Yellow, because there's not a lot of teams, I don't think, on EUREKA's schedule that can hang with them this year.
Man, they're good. I mean,
yeah.
And that's two straight shutouts. And it's not like you're right. They used to play a certain way where it was, we're just going to pound you, ground and pound and beat you. And we got guys that are just freak athletes. And now they're adapting to what they have. And that just proves how good the coaching is out there, and the fact that they see what they have, and we're going to utilize that, and just saying, now we're just going to try to fit the square peg in the round hole. We're just going to go ahead and unleash what this kid can do. And just, yeah, you're right, tossing it all over the place. I mean, it's going to be really tough for Kirkwood. I don't know if they have the guns to keep up with what EUREKA has, and this could be a really good game if the defenses step up and play, or this could really go sideways pretty quick.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you talk about the coaching. Jake Sumner's done a terrific job at EUREKA. Just taking kids, putting them in the right positions, and building things around those kids. But you look in the Rockwood School District. I mean, look at the coaches there. You got Stewart, Boyd Manny, and you got Sumner. Those are 4 pretty doggone good coaches. and they know how to get the best out of those kids. And, it's great to see that. But, yeah, if you're Kirkwood, you got to be ready to, once again, the big key in this game is going to be the backside of their defense. The secondary is going to have to step up big, and they're going to have to put some pressure up front on that quarterback, because if he has any looks, he's going to get the ball out there to his receivers.
Yeah, he is. And you can already see, based on the last 2 weeks, how that can go. Like I said, it could get lopsided pretty quick. So we'll see how that one goes. Our next game features SLU High hosting CBC. Last week, CBC lost 45-31 to Bryant, Arkansas, the 76th ranked team in the country. Not their 76th ranked country, so top 100 team and preseason number 1 overall in the state of Arkansas. Despite 2 interceptions, quarterback Cole McKee tossed 3 touchdowns in the loss. The Cadets will finally play an in-state opponent this week when they welcome in the Junior Bills. SLU High got their second win of the season in week 2, knocking off Timberland 42-7. Senior quarterback Marco Sansone, I hope I said that correctly, tossed 4 touchdowns, 3 in the first half, as the Junior Bills cruised to a victory. CBC is riding a 21-game winning streak against SLU dating back to 2005, and I think that's correct based on the information that I found. So, Jim, will this be number 22?
I don't know. And you know what? This isn't your.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, this SLU team is well rounded, and they're figuring out ways to get Ryan Wingo the football. They're getting him touches. They're putting him back on returns. They're putting him in the slot. They're actually wildcatting him a little bit as well. But Martin Sansone has done a terrific job. I was impressed with him last year, and really just trying to understand Adam Cruz's system. That you got to remember, Adam Cruz didn't get the job until the beginning of June last year. So really not a whole lot of time to install, what you want in your program. Well, guess what? You're seeing what the SLU team can do with this program and the things that Adam Cruz once put in ready to go. And when you've got Wingo, you've got a special kid. And now you've got a kid that can get him the football. Now you got to play defense, and the defense has been pretty solid. They'll get tested this week. Once again, CBC is CBC. They win. They play the big teams in the country, and they don't care. We mentioned it a few weeks ago when we did our first show. Scott Pingle doesn't care if you go undefeated. Is it nice? Absolutely. He just wants his kids to play the best competition, to be battle-tested. This is going to be the best SLU team that they've played in an awfully long time. And this game is going to go down to what defense is going to be able to step up. CBC's secondary got torched last week by Brian. I was watching a lot of that game, and they got torched. Telling you what, you got that speedster in Wingo. You got Sansone that can give him the ball. This game could be a heck of a lot closer than what a lot of people think. I think this game's a toss-up right now. No disrespect to CBC. I think this SLU team is for real, and they've been on the outside looking in. The first 2 polls by the media, I slotted them into the bottom part in the number 10 slot over Jackson. But I'm telling you, I really like this SLU team. CBC, I think, is going to, once again, they're going to make deep run, depending upon the district draw with that monster district that they're going to have to play in. So these games are going to be pivotal to get those kids ready to go. Toss up at SLU. It's always crazy on Oakland Avenue on a Friday night for games. And, it's a coin flip. I can't tell you who's going to win because I really like both of these 2 teams.
Yeah, this is one of the better SLU teams that CBC has faced. Wingo's the real deal. I mean, the kid can play. I mean, he's so their focus better be on him, or he's going to have a career day. And you're right, Bryant got free quite a bit. Now, Bryant's pretty good, okay. So we can't take anything away from them. And looking back, they had a 21-game winning streak going into the start of the season. So that So it's not like, CBC went out of state and just played. It's just some random nobody from wherever. They're playing some real competition too. And so there's, again, no disrespect to them. This is going to be a test for CBC to make sure that playing those games has been worth it. And it's going to be a test for SLU High to see, are we there yet? Are we where we need to be? Here's the marker. How far away are we? Are we over the marker now? And I think this could turn into a really fun one to watch. It could go back and forth, but I think it could come down to I personally think it's going to come down to who has the ball at the end. I think it's going to be that close.
It is, but the big thing too is if you're CBC, your special teams better come ready to go, especially when you got Wingo back deep. And honestly, it will not surprise me either kickoff or punt. They're going opposite of where Wingo's going to line up, because that's what you got to do. He had a punt return for a touchdown last week. Let's just get that out of the way. He's already had 2, I believe, this year. He had 1 in week 1, and he had another one last week. You can't give him an opportunity to touch the football, especially when you can control it on special teams. Offensively, you can't control it that much. But when you can control how he touches the football, that's going to be pivotal in this ball game. And don't be surprised if CBC kicks away from him all night. I agree. This could go down to the wire. I can't wait to be there for this one, because it's going to be a fun game to watch. And I'm really excited about this Junior Bills team.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of curious to see how it ends up going. Our final matchup is a state-ranked matchup of powerhouses as Lutheran North takes on host Francis Howell. The Crusaders surprised a lot of people, including myself, last week, taking down the number 1 team in Class 3, Blair Oaks, 38-30, with the defense coming up big on fourth down in the final minute to seal the win. Lou North's schedule doesn't get any easier, as the number 1 team in Class 4 will take on the number 6 team in Class 6, the Francis Howell Vikings. Despite an impressive stat line, 158 yards passing and a touchdown, and 172 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns from senior quarterback Adam Shipley, Howell lost a back-and-forth barn burner last week against now-ranked Jackson 42-35, as the Indians scored late in the fourth quarter to seal the win. The Vikings won last year's matchup 42-21, but I'm not sure if these are the same teams from last year on both sides. So, Jim, let's hear it. What's your take?
This is going to be a fun one out at Howell. I mean, Lutheran North was embarrassed in this game last year, and Kyle Wagner told me that. He was not happy with how they played on all 3 facets of the game. And, he knew that the schedule was going to be the same. You knew that you had to get through Blair Oaks, and then you had Howell in the following week. And for them to go into Blair Oaks, and I had a couple people on on X, whatever it's called now, say that that's
Twitter
not an
X,
upset. They're
Elon's.
Yeah, the X. I know. There it is. Okay.
Yeah.
But I had a couple people say, "Well, that's not really an upset." Well, guess what? Blair Oaks does not lose in Blair Oaks. They don't lose in Hartsville. Okay. For what Lutheran North did to Blair Oaks, the defending Class state champion, the number 1 team in Class 3, you got to give them credit, and you've got to give them the credit that they're due. And they are a solid team, young quarterback, but a great defense that's able to do a lot of fun things. I think they're trying to find their identity a little bit offensively. I didn't watch a lot of the first game, but I watched a lot of the Jackson game because they pushed the start time back to 7:45. So I had a chance to watch a lot of that game on Friday night. And I know what they're trying to do, and they're trying to figure out how to get Hugh Jones the ball a little bit more from the tight end position. They've got a terrific running back. But I think the defense for Howell has to kind of figure a few things out, because Jackson exploited them a little bit in a couple situations. So a lot of speed on both sides of the ball. This is going to be a fun one. Once again, I think Howell gets it just once again, depth-wise. I think they've got more kids to, trot out there than what Lutheran North does. But I'm telling you right now, a lot of people counted Lutheran North out last week against Blair Oaks. Don't count them out. If they pull off a victory here, they could very well go into the Maryville matchup later on this season undefeated. And a lot of people are looking at it. I had somebody say to me, well, Maryville's schedule just got a whole heck of a lot tougher. Sure did. And if Lutheran North can spring the big one, you got a team that right now in Class 4, I don't know who can beat them. And it'll be interesting to see. But Hal is a team. Now they've got, great coaching. They're trying to figure a few things out. I guarantee you those guys are going to be ready to roll on Friday night, especially in that raucous stadium out at Francis Howell in Weldon Springs. It's first responders night or military night. It's one of those two. It's going to be a packed house, and it'll be a lot of fun. Give the slight edge to Hal, but I'm not going to be surprised in the least bit if Lutheran North springs the big upset.
Yeah, and I think I think right now the nod would go towards Hal just because it's at home. They've got to shore up some things with their defense. They've got to come up with those plays. I mean, the game was back and forth with Jackson. I know, again, Jackson's good, but I think there's enough talent here with Hal where they should be able to get to that point where they're getting those big stops. But at the same time, Lutheran North, good gosh, they are good. They are really good. And I agree with you, and there's no disrespect to anybody in Class 4 because we do have a couple of teams in Jefferson County that are Class 4. Whoever's gonna match up with them in the state tournament, good luck because they are legit. They are here to play. And you're right. If they can pull off this upset at Howell, I'm going to tell you right now, there is a straight shot right now to that championship trophy. And as long as the health is there, they are the favorites to win it.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely. If you're Hillsboro Festus, you're going to have to run into them. You just know it's going to have to happen at some point. Okay, but I just really like what Kyle Wagner's done with this program, and took some lumps last year, lost again, lost in the playoffs, which they really, they didn't think they were going to lose that game. And I think that's been the rallying cry throughout the offseason, throughout the summer, and they're preparing for games like this. And once again, you're talking about a team that's not shying away from anybody. Last year, they played three state champions. This year, they're playing 2 state champions and a team that made it out there. So they're not shying away from anybody in this cycle. And I love seeing that. But, once again, great atmosphere. Hal does it upright. Sean Irwin, their AD, they run a first-class game night operation. And if you ever get a chance to get out there to Hal for a home football game, you've got to, because it is a lot of fun.
That's what I hear. One of these days, I'm going to make that trip. I just find other things to do on Friday nights, like watch my St. Pius Lancers usually play. But no, a lot of good football going on this Friday. And if you have the means and get out and watch some of these games, if you don't, many of the schools have streaming services for free. Yeah. They'll put stuff on YouTube. They'll do different things so that way people get a chance to watch these kids play. And they're having the time of their lives. So, get out there, support those schools, support these programs, support these kids, and go watch some really good football. We have some really good football in the St. Louis Metro, Jefferson County area. Get out there and watch it. Enjoy the atmospheres. It's great. The weather's going to be great. I can't keep pushing it anymore. If you don't do it, It's on you. I don't know what to tell you.
Right. No, without a doubt. And, I know we're talking a lot of football, but my gosh, you look at, the start of the volleyball season, the biggest cross-country meet of the year is this Saturday over at Forest Park, the Festival of Miles. And I'll be over there for the third year in a row handling the public address duties. And it's a fun event. A lot of Jefferson County's, Festus has had some great runs in there. Hillsboro's got another solid team. Herky will be up there. So, I mean, just a fun atmosphere. But, yeah, go support these kids. They're working their tails off. And get out, support them, whether it's local, whether if you want to take a ride just to watch a great football game for the casual fan, or go watch some volleyball, go watch some soccer. I mean, just go have fun and support these kids because they deserve it. I know. I mentioned the S word, soccer.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. That's okay. Support the kids, even if that means you're going out and watching a soccer game. But again, we'll let you guys all get to it. Appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of On the Move at the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. I'm Chris Miller for Jim. we'll see you guys all again next week. Have a great weekend. Get out and watch the sports, as we said, and we'll see you all then. This episode of On the Move with the Caravan is brought to you by Off the Rails Media. Life's more fun when you're off the rails.
Are you tired of boring sports talk shows? Then tune in to the Coach's Box. These guys don't just talk sports, they talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. Watch new episodes of the Coach's Box each week for free on Facebook, YouTube, or the Streamline Sports app.